Listen, before we start, Belle, you have been known to speak directly.
Oh,
And
I heard that vicious rumor from you.
and occasionally to use some of those words. I tried to model you yesterday in my remarks. I got one in. Let me try for another one. A number of people have asked me tonight whether in the current environment in which you're not supposed to do things for groups, that might exclude or suggest that one group is more important than another. If this gathering, if the Women's Network, if the state leadership will continue. Hell yeah! No question. So, Belle, you said the other day when we were on stage that you didn't wake up as a little girl one day and decide you wanted to be an accreditor.
True.
Speaks to the wisdom of youth, doesn't it? So, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about you heard that we all heard the steps, but each step is a motion, it's a movement, it's a decision, it's a set of circumstances. Can you walk us through your leadership journey?
Sure. I started, it actually goes way back. I was raised in a house with my mother, my grandmother, my great aunt. Very strong women. In the 60s and 70s, when there were two revolutions going on, a sexual revolution or a gender revolution, and a racial revolution.
There's no gender
yeah,
anymore?
I know.
I'll stop. I promise I'll stop.
I still have freedom of speech. They haven't arrested me yet, so I'm going to... a gender revolution and a racial revolution, and so I had all these women and all these black folks, because we were still black in the 60s. I tell people my grandmother was colored, my mother was Negro, I'm black, and my son's African American, so it's hard to keep up. But in the 60s, we were still black, and we were proud. And so I had all these people telling me I could be anything I wanted to be, I could do anything I wanted to do. I'm a third generation college-going student, which is unusual in the African American community. And so there was never a question of if I was going to college, it was where I was going to college. And I was in a high school where I was the only black in my junior and senior classes. And so they figured, I wasn't going anywhere, so they didn't bother to give me counseling. And but there on the PSAT, there was this little circle that said if you were a Negro student and wanted your scores to be considered by the National Service and Scholarship Fund for Negro students, to fill out the circle. So Sister Anselm looked at me, I shook my head, I filled it in, and we went on. And so Trinity University in San Antonio offered me a scholarship based on those scores. Well, I grew up in San Antonio, and so I had always seen, the university on the hill, as we would call it, and so wild to get a scholarship there. And I was 16 when I enrolled in college.
Wow.
And so I didn't know any better. I just, I'm there, I'm going to do all this stuff. And so I got heavily involved in activities. I pledged a sorority, a national sorority. I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And the leadership that you learn coming up in school, in the sorority, given the revolutions that were going on at that time, just prepared me to take on anything. And so I went to college, got my bachelor's degree, went right to LSU in a doctoral program, and my mother took ill, and so I terminated with a master's. It was interesting because I was there when David Duke was a senior, and streakers were, running through campus. It was a wild time. But I was majoring in child psychology, and because I had no teaching experience, I was going to be a child psychologist at some point, but I couldn't because I had no teaching experience. But I could teach at the community college. And so I went back to St. Philip's College in San Antonio, which had been the black college forever, looking for a job because I knew everybody who worked there. They had gone to school with my grandmother, gone to church with my grandmother or school with my mother, except the chairwoman of the psych department was a white female who was kind enough to tell me she had one black woman working for her. She didn't need another one. Go try San Antonio College. I went to San Antonio College. They didn't have one. They hired me on the spot. It was fine. You take opportunities when they come along. You don't question them at that particular point. And so I taught for 10 years, and in year 8 decided I wanted to go back and finish my doctoral work. And the University of Texas, Austin had the closest PhD program to San Antonio, and so I commuted back there in the what was then called the Community College Leadership Program. They convinced me that I had leadership skills and I could be a president at some point, so I said, fine. So I went through the program and finished it and came back and immediately moved into administration. During that time, my then husband also got a new job. We adopted a baby who was 4 months old, and 10 months later he decided, or his father decided he didn't want to be married anymore. So I ended up being a single parent. I've been a single parent since my son was 10 months old.
Wow.
He'll be 41 this year, and he's doing all right. And so having to be independent, in my personal life, as well as being responsible in my professional life, has given me the chutzpah to just kind of move on and do what has to be done. You don't question it, you just kind of do it one day at a time. I decided, though, that I needed to move from San Antonio. I had been there all my life, and so in 1987 I started applying for jobs and came to Virginia and got the Chief Student Services Officer at Thomas Nelson Community College. And I told Bob Templin, who was the president then, just as I had told other supervisors, that I wanted to be a president when I grew up, and I'd appreciate it if you'd give me some opportunities to do things that I wouldn't ordinarily do in my own job so that I can prepare for that. And he was kind enough to do that. 23 months later, I left and went to Portsmouth and was provost of the Portsmouth campus of Tidewater Community College. I told George Pass the same thing, that I want to be a president. I don't want your job, but I want to be a president. You don't want them feeling insecure when you, come after them. He ended up taking a medical leave, and I became what we would have called interim president, but they called me the chair of the transition team because it was okay. Ordinarily, the VP Academic Affairs would have been the interim president, but he was applying for the job. And so the rest of us just kind of got together, but it was my name that went on the pink slips and had to meet with because this was during one of the recessions in Virginia. I did that for 2.5 years in Portsmouth, and then got the opportunity to be president of Central Virginia Community College in Lynchburg, Virginia. My friends still tease me about going to a town called Lynchburg with Jerry Falwell literally right across the street. It's a very conservative community, and here's this loud liberal black woman coming in being president. I had a wonderful experience. It was 6.5 of the best years of my professional life. But living in that fishbowl for 6.5 years was long enough. I wanted a bigger fishbowl. So I applied at Northern Virginia Community College, and ordinarily would not have, because it was going from an institution with 4,000 head count to one with 60,000 head count. Quantum leap had a whole new meaning
yes,
in that,
indeed.
But
yes,
because
indeed.
I was already in the system and I knew everybody, it was more logical, I guess. And I said something that got me there, and so I did that. And I had planned to retire from Nova. It was just wonderful. And then Mark Warner got elected governor and called and said, you've been working with the senior institutions to get these articulation agreements going. How about you come be my Secretary of Education? Took a $45,000 pay cut and commuted 100 miles one way every day to go and do that. But it was an opportunity. There had never been a person with a community college background at the governor's table before. And I just felt like I needed to be there to be that voice. I had that opportunity. I couldn't turn it down. You may know that Virginia has the only one-term governor in the country. And so it's only 4 years and then you're out. That can be good. It cannot be good sometimes. And so I had to go find another job. And so I was in some searches to get to be president again. And Jim Rogers, who was my predecessor at the commission, announced his retirement. And because I had been a peer evaluator since the early 90s, I knew the process, I knew the people, and so someone nominated me, and apparently I said the right thing in the interview, and here I am 20 years later. So that's
not bad, not bad. So if I pull that apart a little bit and think of some themes, theme one is stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to let people know what you want to be when you grow up. I mean, most of us are not mind readers, and so unless you tell somebody what your goals are, then they can't help you get there.
No, good, I got that one, great.
Okay, yes.
Number two is keep your eyes open.
Yep. Yep.
And if you sort of, this is my path, I'm going to be path dependent, this leads to this, leads to this, you're going to miss a lot of opportunities.
That's right.
What was the one that was the biggest, I wonder if this is going to change my life forever and whether I should
Secretary of Education
Yeah.
was probably the one. I was stepping into something totally foreign to me. I have never been a fan of partisan politics. And we were, at that time, a Democrat elected governor with a Republican House and Senate. And it's kind of like, what do we do with this, you know, because we know they're not going to give us any wins. That was where I learned that compromise was really important, and at that time they were still doing compromise in government.
Such a quaint idea.
I know, it's unique, special.
Yeah,
you know.
we old folks, we can remember those days.
Gone the way of, you know, the VW Beetle or something, I don't know.
It's coming back.
I hope.
It's coming back.
I hope compromise comes back too. But I'm not holding my breath.
I was going to say, this is Dr. 167 Days speaking about that.
I would have said this 20 years ago. It doesn't matter.
No, we were talking about the last time there was compromise, and we were thinking the Kennedy administration.
Yeah.
And it could either be the John or
Edward
when he was in the Senate, but it sort of cuts off right about
Yeah.
there. But mentorship. Mm-hmm. We had a good long discussion today and good opportunity to talk about personal mentorship. Mm-hmm. Were there people who
Sure.
nudged you, pushed you? Anybody say to you, maybe this isn't the right job for you?
Oh yeah. Most of them were men because there weren't
Most
that
of
many
us were.
women, you know. And I thank every man in here who's here to support this event tonight, and for all the women that you have helped mentor, because you know, we still don't have enough. We still don't always have enough of us in the positions that can make a difference and pull other folks in, and so we're not going to write you off. We may set you aside a little bit, but we won't write you off. But most of them were men, especially in my early career, both black men and white men. John Roosh, I will have to pay homage to forever and ever. He was the director of the graduate program at the University of Texas, Austin, and at the time there were more sitting presidents and vice presidents from the UT program than any other graduate program in the country. It's a hellacious network that people still stay in touch, and John was the energy behind that. And I can still pick up the phone today and call him and say, John, you know, I'm looking for something, and he can do that. So, and he was very good about saying, no, you don't want to apply for that job. Let me tell you why. You know, this is where they are. This is what they're doing. This is what they're looking for. You don't fit any of those boxes, so don't put yourself out there and burn a bridge when you don't have to. Yeah. I'd also give a shout out to Eileen Backus. Some of you may know her. She was a community college president in Connecticut. And when I first became provost in Portsmouth, pardon me, and I actually talked to her about what to wear the day I went on my first presidential interview, because it does make a difference, the image. I was going to wear red. I was ready. You know, I'm going to walk in the room, you're going to know I'm in the room. She said, no, I don't think you want to do that on your first job interview. So, you know, I mean, just down to things, to the point that there is what we call the President's Roundtable, which is all of the community college presidents, all the African-American CEOs in community colleges. And so we have that organization started back when Chuck Green, back in the 60s, there were 5 black presidents in all the community colleges. I don't think there ever been more than 100 at any given time, but we have that affinity group where we can call each other, you know, and ask what's going on. And so that group has always been there. You know, my first presidential decision was whether we use token ring or Ethernet as part of our IT. I'm a social science major. What the hell are you talking about? I don't know what that is. So I told them, I had the division chair and the IT director who were fighting different sides. I said, go back and write me up a page or two of the advantages and disadvantages of each one, and then I'll make a decision. And as soon as they walked out the office, I got on the phone and called Eileen. I said, what is this? Because she used to work for IBM. I figured she would know. So yes, I've had a conglomeration of people, you know, who have been there. Even for this, for the position that in which I've been for 20 years, there were people who said, "You sure you want to do that? I mean, black woman in charge of quality of higher ed in the South. What does that say?
what could go wrong?
That's right." So it was interesting because when the announcement came out, of course, all the minorities were ecstatic.
Sure.
All the women were ecstatic. All the community college people were ecstatic. So hell, that was more than 51%. That's all I ever aimed for.
None of the rest
You
of
know?
it matters.
That's right. It's a simple majority. So, but it's been a good ride, and I have managed to win. I'd say 98% of the folks over. You know, I mean, there's still some naysayers out there. And it's most interesting because we are a membership organization, as each of your accrediting organizations is. And I work for my members, you know, and sometimes that aggravates legislators and the heads of, you know, higher ed agencies and stuff. But that's what you pay me to do, and so that's what I'm going to do.
So in your role as a leader of a membership organization that has an opportunity to talk with and engage with presidents about their institutions, you also have this opportunity to be a mentor to college presidents as they go through their journey. Has that part of it changed a lot?
The whole role of president has changed. One of the points I wanted to finish was with the roundtable. We started a leadership program for which I wrote the curriculum, and it is still going on today. And it's interesting because one of the sessions we have is where sitting presidents will come and say, okay, ask me anything. Anything, you know, I mean, this is your opportunity to find out what life is really like as a black president at a community college. And one year, there were 4 women on the panel. All of us had short hair. And so one of the questions was, is it a requirement that you have short hair? And I said, no, but you know, you can't be high maintenance, because when your day starts with a breakfast at the chamber at 7:30 and doesn't end until a dinner with the board at night, then you got to be low maintenance. So it just worked for us. So, but you know, those are the kinds of things people don't tell you, and sometimes that can kill you, depending on the community in which you move. You know, and so yes, I have mentees who are aspiring presidents, some who've been successful, that we've sat down and, you know, we said, you know, is there a place that your family is going to be comfortable? You know, are there, are there stores that you're going to feel comfortable going to shop? Do you understand that some of those things for which you usually shop, you may have to wait till you're out of your service region to go purchase? Because, you know, when Lynchburg, they actually had people watching the one public bookstore that was there to see what was being purchased.
Just like today.
Yeah, probably.
Sorry.
No, probably.
I
I wouldn't doubt that it's not happening today. But, you know, and so I would wait until I was here in D.C. to go to the, you know, Barnes & Noble and buy whatever it was I wanted to read when I was at home. So
we're gonna.
This was before Amazon.
Yeah. We're gonna ask you all to participate and ask Belle some questions. Give her some of your thoughts. We've got 2 microphones there, and so please start moving that way, or at least start thinking about what you want to ask Belle. Would you recommend to people that they become college presidents in this day
I
and
would
age?
recommend that they think about it long and hard. No, I would never deter anybody if that's what they really felt they wanted to do, but I think it's incumbent to think about what you're getting into now, because it is very different. The political intrusion by local, state, and national legislators is just beyond anything I've ever known. The enrollment cliff is real. And so walking in knowing that you may have to cut staff, you may have to reduce your budget by 25% when you walk in the door. I mean, these are things that I didn't have to worry about because I was around during a time when resources were plentiful. But it's very different now. It really is. We have board members more today than I've ever seen that are trying to make a name for themselves. Right. And so they figure any publicity is good publicity, and so they do all kinds of outrageous things and ask all kinds of outrageous questions in a public meeting that they think is a good thing, and not realizing the harm it does to the institution with all the chaos they create. So it is a different job, but somebody's got to do it. And,
Now there's a recommendation for you.
It is, and but I heard the same kinds of things. Are you sure you want to go into accreditation? I mean, yeah, it is, because I'm working for the students, and as long as you keep the students the center of the focus, you can put up with the rest of the stuff. I think that we're going to lose the title, but be able to keep the services. I think, when we help them understand that when you're talking about diversity, you're talking about veterans.
Yes.
You're talking about folks with disabilities. You're not just talking about racial issues. And they will understand that, number one, there's still laws that protect those protected classes, and that, they need to be careful what they're doing. But I just think that it's again, there's an education that needs to be had. And I have better faith that you'll be able to educate the legislators from your area who get to vote on this stuff than trying to change the president's mind. I mean, his mind is made up. He's got this agenda. He's listening to these people, and they're not getting pushback. And I read an interview the other day that one of his advisors put out there and said, it really is chaos. We're just creating it. Nobody's saying anything. So, it's time. This is the time to speak up and to educate people on the impact of what's going on. But I think we'll always have those services. As long as we're serving students and as long as those are the ones coming to our institutions, we will provide those services. I was sitting out at the table earlier and somebody called me Dr. Whelan, what should I call you? I said, just call me on payday. I don't care what you call me. So I think no matter what your title is, I have more and other duties as assigned than I have as president. And so, just whatever happens. But we've got to help continue educating people on the impact of the decisions that they make. Yeah.
So, not yet. Give me a chance. So, Belle.
Yes, Ted.
You know that you're a personal hero of mine.
Oh, thank you.
And you have been for a very long time. And you've talked about integrity. And one of the things that I've always been able to count on you for is to tell me the truth and tell the world the truth. I'm in your debt. We're in your debt. You're a hero.
Oh, it's my
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you.